So I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last September and October. And I haven't had the time or the mental capability to talk about it because I was very traumatized by the situation. So my delivery driver for Baxter showed up, and he had like one box. I was very startled because I'm like, where is my dextrose? Now, the reason that that's so important is because I have to use the bags to do my dialysis. So if I don't have the bags, well, what do you think is going to happen? I think by looking at my facial expression, he really started to click that I had no idea what was going on. Did you not know that there is a shortage of dextrose? Now, one of the reasons I have no idea is because I don't watch the news. After the whole scamdemic situation happened with COVID, I don't trust nothing the news says. And I just have always been that way, and I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. So I really use logic as a way to come to my answers. Because I didn't watch the news, I had no idea that there's this huge hurricane situation that happened back east. I think it's North Carolina that has the Baxter plant that manufactures our dextrose. And so I guess it was obliterated. But I didn't know any of this. So he says you need to call Baxter and let them know that you didn't get your supply order. Now, when I was first trained, I was told that I needed to order enough to have for 5 days, just in case an emergency, a national emergency situation would happen. Well, lo and behold, here we are, right? I was just very, very concerned because from what I understand, I can only go for about 3 days without doing dialysis, and then I go and meet my maker. So I was like, what is going on? And it was 4:30-ish when he showed up, and we had this conversation, and then he left, and I called Baxter, but by that point it was 5, and they said I had like a 3-hour wait or something. And so I knew that I was not going to get in to talk to them that day. But that's okay, because I still had my extra boxes, and I had enough dialysis to tide me over, right? And the next day was Friday. So in the morning, I went ahead and called DEVITA, because when emergencies happen, or like something, I have a question or anything, and they try to remedy everything, right? Because that's their job. Well, when I called DEVITA, I talked to a person there, not my nurse, and they had very limited information, and it was very upsetting to me because I'm still upset, because I felt like I wasn't being heard with the urgency of my emotions and my mental thinking. There was no level of encouragement or stability. It was very nonchalant and very like, I was told that if I run out of dextrose to call them, although they don't have enough to supply for the month or for everybody. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? But I had no answers. So I called Baxter, and after waiting for, I think, like quite a while, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, there was this automated service that said, go to Baxter.com, and you have to log in and then reorder your supplies there. Once I got into that Baxter.com website, now granted, this is important, I have been on dialysis now for 4 years, so I'm not new. But according to Baxter.com, I had to be verified that I was a patient before they went a step further. Yeah. So it's flagged a little message that said it takes 2 days for us to verify you. And I was like, okay, today is Friday. Does that mean Saturday and Sunday is my 2 days, or does that mean Monday, Tuesday is my 2 days? That means that's 4 days that I am waiting so that I can resubmit an order in the situation where I won't have any more dextrose to do my dialysis with. So at this point, because I have no answers, I did what I thought was logically smart, and I will stand by this. I decided to salvage my exchanges. Now, because I don't eat garbage most of the time, and because I do really well on dialysis, and I know how to do it where I can eat limitedly and then not over-toxicate my body, I just did 1 dialysis exchange a day, because I thought, if I have to ration my supply because it's going to take me 4 days to get a hold of Baxter, and then even longer for them to finally get me my shipment, then I have to save my own life. I have to ration this dextrose. So that's what I did. And I watched very carefully what I ate. I ate very minimally. And then that Monday, I waited for a phone call from DEVITA, because they obviously know that I'm in need. But I got no such phone call. On Tuesday, ironically, I had a doctor's appointment. When I got there, the nurse that I had was somebody from Phoenix. She had told me that my nurse was on vacation. I am in a state of panic because I'm like, I am running out of dextrose. What do I do? And she's like, well, I'm not sure what your clinic is doing for this, but in Phoenix, they're going around and picking up extra dialysis from people who either had transplant or whatever the case may be. Okay, like Phoenix was fucking on it. And I was so upset. I'm still upset, because I was like, why is nobody helping me? Why are there no answers? And then there's also a level of like guilt, because I'm like, I'm one of how many patients? So maybe they just have to like spread it all out so that nobody dies, right? This is where my mind's at. I kind of started asking her, I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And I started crying, and I was like, I don't know. Like, do I notify my family that I'm going to die? Like, this is serious. So she tells me, do you want to talk to your nurse, because she's in the next room? Now, I have only raged in my soul very few times, but this was one of them, because I could not believe that when I showed up, I was lied to about where my nurse was. And when she came in, there was no empathy whatsoever, but it was a nonchalant behavior that I'm just like still traumatized by. So I said, what am I supposed to do? I'm running out of dextrose and nobody seems to have any answers for me. I told her, I don't watch the news. I didn't even know this thing was going on. And she looked at me and said, well, maybe you should watch the news now. I then proceeded to say, am I supposed to tell my parents that I'm going to die? Like, I have no answers. What do I do? And she says, well, that's a little dramatic, don't you think? And in that moment, I thought, you're not my friend. I do not respect you anymore. I want nothing to do with you. And I started to cry. She basically was like, just go back home, and all you have to do is call Baxter, even if you have to wait for hours, and have them resubmit your order. That's all that has to happen. And I left there with, I think, 2 boxes and a very, very sad spirit, because I didn't deserve to be treated that way. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. Now, apparently, I was 1 out of 6 people who this happened to at this center, which makes me infuriated, because I'm like, how is it there's only 5 people, I was number 6, that you couldn't call me and talk to me and create a plan for me? Like, I was thinking it was going to be hundreds of people who were out of this, and I'm sure overall it was, not for me to be treated this way. Like it was a burden for me to be number 6. And I don't know about you, but I have managed people before, and I have never, I would have shown up every day to make sure that those 6 people would have known exactly what was going on, to make sure that they felt safe. And the fact that they did none of that for me is just insane. I still can't believe it. I ended up, she said, do you want to file a grievance? And I said, yes. I don't think she ever filed the grievance, because I ended up calling Colorado, and I talked to them, because I was like, this that happened to me was not right. And if it would have been like, 200 or 300 people were affected by this at this one clinic, and we were scrambling to find them stuff, okay, I get it. But 6? Come on, do your job right. I'm trusting you with myself, my life, and this is how I got treated. When I left, the visiting nurse was so sweet. She helped me take my boxes out to my car, and she says, your nurse can call Baxter for you and put in your supply order. So maybe you should ask them to do that. And I thought, how absurd is it that I have to ask them to do their job? And please save my life. Could you just, that's so stupid. And I appreciate her saying that, because here's what happened. I got home and I stayed on the phone for 2 hours for Baxter. When Baxter finally picked up and we had some conversation, they said, oh, well, your order's been resubmitted. It looks like it was resubmitted today. So I didn't even have to call. And yet nobody from DEVITA called me to say, hey, we put in your order, don't worry about it. Nobody ever said, hey, we'll take care of it, we'll help you. The person who answered the phone on Friday never told the person on Monday or Tuesday, apparently. Maybe she did and they just didn't care. Then I go back probably 3 weeks later, because that's about my range of appointments. And my new nurse tells me, and she's like, well, we sent you a message through Care Connect, which is the program that we all use to kind of converse. So like if I have to cancel an appointment, instead of calling and all of that and having to get transferred and stuff, sometimes it's easier just to pop up on your phone and put it in a message and send it away, almost like text message. So basically she says, we sent you a message to Care Connect. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. So I pulled it up right there at my appointment, and I said, how interesting. This came 2 weeks after the whole incident. I do see it. Now, I do have to say that I do love my new nurse, and I'm appreciative of her. And if it wasn't for my doctor, my nephrologist, I would have left DEVITA altogether. or at least switch clinics because I don't feel safe. All my supplies showed up and everything's back to normal basically, except that now we're getting shipments from other places. Like my last shipment was from Singapore, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with this whole insurance. And Mexico actually makes a lot of our dextrose, and then there is a plant here in the US, but that's gone, so I don't know what they're doing with that. So in the long run, everything worked out and everything's okay. But obviously I was still traumatized by it. It just makes me feel proud of myself for staying the course in trying to save my own self. So in the end, I don't think that they were trying to hurt me. When I talked to the person in charge here in Tucson, I said, I hope that you retrain your employees to handle the emergency situations much better than what was done, because I'm trained to handle it from my end, and I did everything I was supposed to do, which I was scolded about not doing all my exchanges in the day. And I was like, but if I didn't do that, then I would have ran out. So I had to. And I'm not going to ever not think of myself first. So the whole thing was just a shit show from the beginning. And when I talked to the head director, whatever, here in Tucson, I told her I really want them to really look at this case, and instead of backpedaling, re-educate their staff on how to deal with it. The fact that I didn't get a phone call on Monday is just beyond me. Vacation be damned. I was just number 6. That's the thing. There wasn't hundreds of people. I was just number 6. And I don't know. I think that one was just... I have gone to therapy to talk about it because it's troubling. And I just don't feel safe. Did I over-panic? I don't think so. I was very concerned with what I did because I had no answers. I was very upset because I had no answers. Had I had answers, and that's fine, like, oh, just come in and grab a couple boxes here, you know, everything's going to be okay, we're going to reissue everything, la la la, fine. You know, I was told, well, people deal with, you know, stressful situations so differently, you know, and so your first nurse probably was just overwhelmed. And I'm like, with 6 people? I mean, come on. Like that to me is just an excuse, and it wasn't good. It's not valid. It makes me sad though, because I don't see her anymore, and I did value our friendship, but for a while, I think I just need to be with my new nurse, kind of rebuild the trust that is there, because I always say, like, dialysis isn't a big thing, and in a lot of ways it's really not. It doesn't stop me from living my best life, but it's also scary because if I don't do dialysis, I die. Like, I have like a weird control of my life, and that's something that is hard to wrap your head around, because everyday living, you're not in that type of control in the same way. So I have to do this 3 times a day, or I get sick and die. Overall, I'm happy. Things are going well in my life. Thank God for music and for the people who support me. And I just hope that DEVITA and other medical facilities get trained properly so that when these things happen, less people are falling through the cracks. So that's my story. I think I'm gonna go take a nap. Okay, bye-bye.